Early June 2020, middle of the pandemic in Four Oaks, North Carolina. Why is that so memorable?
It was the first time that we were bringing a lot of memory makers into one location to open The Rock, which was a huge location. And just the first time since the pandemic that we were just able to bring everybody together. We went in the first day I got there. It was also the same time that there were a lot of riots happening and protests throughout the country. So when I first arrived to the hotel, there were about 50 police cars in the parking lot because there were going to be planned riots that evening at the outlet mall right next to us. So already heightened awareness. I knew the big responsibility I had is to, 1, keep everybody safe, 2, keep everybody healthy, and 3, get the job done and get that store opened. So it was difficult.
And that wasn't even the first store you opened during the middle of a pandemic, but in the middle of riots and everything else. That's one of many stories we're going to have.
Join Charlie Maloof as he explores the personal journeys of Broad River Retail's very own memory makers. Welcome to Stories from the River.
Welcome to Stories from the River, the Janet Leimkuhler episode. This is going to be fun. Janet has been with us, I think, the longest of any current memory maker since November 2003, nearly 19 years. I've been so looking forward to having this conversation. It's great to finally, your schedule allows you coming on and spending a little bit of time with us. Welcome to the podcast, Janet.
Thanks, Charlie, for having me. I'm excited to be here. I love watching these, and it's really great to kind of get to know everybody from a different side, not just the business side, but the personal side as well.
Well, we're going to get to know you from the business and the personal side,
Right.
And your story is so inspiring. Before we get started, I always like to kind of ask and inquire about your personal background prior to coming to the river. I know it was a long time ago. Can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. I was born and raised in New York, and kind of went through a lot there, got married in 2000, and my husband and I decided to move to North Carolina. So we had no job, no plan, and about $200 in our pocket, and just decided to go with it. Luckily, we both got employment pretty quick. My husband's been in the same role or with the same company, Harris Teeter, for all this time. But I actually started out in Haverty's, about 2 doors down from where our current original store is.
Wow.
Yeah.
With less like $200 in your pocket, and you guys just up and left.
Up and left. We had nothing.
Risk takers.
I guess, or a little crazy.
There you go. Well, I'm glad you made that move.
Yeah.
And then you joined us in, I said earlier, November 2003.
Yes.
In what role did you start as?
I was, I guess, what we call an REM now, but I think back then it was a CRM or a CSM. So I was just helping customers, taking money and handling any issues. With one store, it was a much smaller kind of organization. So we did everything there together. And we all, at that point, still wore many hats. So November was a tricky time to start. I think my second day or third day was Black Friday. So that was a wow kind of day.
Yeah. Well, and you didn't join Broad River Retail. What was the name of the company that you joined?
Ishmore.
Ishmore.
Yes.
Based off of the 2 founders' last names.
Right.
Jonathan Ishii and Jackson Moore. And we had 1 store then, and now we have 31. And you've been a part of that growth all the way through. So I'm sure you've got plenty of stories to tell.
I do.
From the early days too. And you just talked about kind of your first day, your first week, Black Friday. So that's I can't believe you still remember that way back when.
Yep.
Got a great memory. So tell us about your career journey. Currently, you're the director of visual impact, but you've worn many, many hats. I think you've maybe worked in every department, or it feels like it.
Yes.
So take us through kind of, you started back office support for the store, single store. Somehow we convinced you to join us, and just take us through your journey.
Sure. Well, I wasn't even sure I was going to get the job. I walked in, I had about a 5-minute interview with Cherrie Peters back then, and I left, and I didn't think he liked me, so I wasn't sure. I did a follow-up and called back, and he's like, oh yeah, you start Monday. So I started, and I guess that's the end of that story. But I've worked in all aspects of the company. I've worked back of the house, front of the house, in operations. I think that you and I maybe helped you with marketing at some point. Scarily got involved with Steve Carey and some accounting through the STORIS go live. So that definitely stretched my comfort zone. We spent many hours counting inventory in warehouses, which was always an interesting time.
Always interesting.
Yes. And then basically every single time, well, I only had 2 kids here, Joey and Buggy, but every single time I had a baby, I came back in a different role. And spent
Really?
Yes. That was always a little interesting. Probably the first one was when I came back after Joey, and Jonathan had me come in and train somebody, and that was you.
Which, yeah, I remember. I think you had your baby under the desk.
I did.
Well, this is an interesting culture we have here.
Yes.
And so, what'd you think at that time? You're training me. Thank you for doing that, by the way. I don't know if I ever learned anything. Not because of your training. I was so lost at that time.
It was a different experience. I was a little kind of upset because I thought I was training you to take my job. And I'm like, well, what am I going to do?
Yeah, furthest from the truth.
Right.
Well, so Jackson and Jonathan, you had a front row seat to kind of the company with one store. So I just would love to kind of, not too many people kind of understand or know their story so much. We brought them in at one of our summits to give a fireside chat, which was a lot of fun. So what do you know? Do you have a memorable or a favorite Jackson Moore story? What can you tell us about Jackson?
Jackson, both of them were absolutely amazing. I learned so much from them. They were just good, kind people that really cared about their people. So Jackson would jump in, and you didn't sometimes know he was the owner of the company. You might have thought he was what we call a VIA now, because he was always moving furniture, but really passionate about doing all of that, getting right in there. I know that our team back then, whether it was King Brown or Eric, just really felt like Jackson connected with us. Mm-hmm. So that was a wonderful kind of experience. And then Jonathan, again, he trained me mostly. I do remember, package tags were a big deal back then, and the only printer was in his office. So
why is it? Was that strategic?
I don't know, but he knew that every time I messed up, because I would have to do multiple reprints.
Oh my gosh!
And that was very difficult for me.
Oh gosh. That's great. Do you have any other favorite Jonathan Ishii stories?
I don't. There's definitely were some, like I said, doing inventories, some extreme moments where there could have been maybe chairs or things thrown. But we rolled with the punches.
We got through it.
We did.
I'd be pretty nervous if every time I made a mistake, I had to go into his office to print off or capture my mistake or fix it.
Every time.
Oh man, some fun stuff. Well, what are some of your other memories from the early years?
It was a lot of fun, and I really kind of do see the same company that we were then.
Really?
I see it here today.
In what way?
We were always, I think, a people company. I definitely felt like I joined a family. We had, there's still some today, Victor Medina, who decided to leave and come back. King Brown left and come back. Eric Turner is still here. So there are a lot of people that we've really kind of grown up. I was 23, I think, when I started here. So my life has really kind of been here with Broad River, as opposed to a young kid, not knowing what I was doing when I was much younger. So I feel like we have always been a people company, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I love working here.
That's great that we've really been able to, you've noticed that we've been able to continue that. And honestly, I think it's probably because of people like you who've stayed, who've made sure to nurture that part of the culture and not let it go away. No, this is who we're about, how we are. Because the culture is really just the people in the culture who make it. So do you remember the original Prologist warehouse, or one of the original? We've had different warehouses along the way.
Yes.
And so you mentioned inventory. Do you remember those long analog inventory counts that we used to do?
I do. I remember. Our original warehouse was on Westinghouse Boulevard. We had 2 warehouses on 2 different warehouses in Statesville Avenue out there. So a lot. We've kind of, and I would work in the store one day, work in the warehouse for a couple hours or a couple days, and we would all just go back and forth. But it was definitely interesting, and those counts were long and or very early in the morning. Some of them, I think we started at 4 or 5 in the morning. You may have. I don't know that I could, but you were always a wizard, and your productivity was off the charts on those inventory counts. You were always lapping everybody else. And hopefully we got some more automated, better ways to do it. But we had to make sure the inventory was accurate. It'd be an all-out assault to get it done. So before settling into our corporate office in Fort Mill, and we'll talk about what that did to your commute here in a second, but we had moved around quite a bit. So tell us about the different offices that you worked from. Right. So Pineville, it was, we all kind of worked in that little area there, and then
behind the counter.
Behind the counter,
Yeah.
Yes.
The little area, not a corporate office.
It was our corporate office.
The back of the store.
Correct. Which it looks very different now after the renovation. But then we were in Matthews. So when we moved into Matthews, I was like, yes, finally, because my commute was 20 minutes away.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, I was always really kind of strict where I needed to leave at a certain time. I was very, confirmed that I didn't want my kids to be 6 to 6 daycare kids. I wanted to be able to get them and get home and spend time with them. So I was so happy when we moved there. And then we decided to move again. And I believe it was you that kind of gave me the opportunity to, if I worked one day at the office, I was able to work one day at home. And it really helped. I mean, I think it would have been very difficult to going from a 20-minute commute to an hour and a half commute. So there was definitely flexibility and grace given to me, which I definitely greatly appreciated.
Well, I mean, first of all, we always felt you had earned the right, but you were doing the work from home thing before the work from home thing became cooler in vogue. I mean,
yes.
But you'd earned the right, and we understood what kind of moving does to people's commutes, and there was just this implicit trust. Like we know you're getting your work done, so that was never really a problem. And so we were in Matthews, I think, then Prologist, then Selwyn.
South Park, then Selwyn.
Yeah, and so each of them got further away from.
They did.
And then Fort Mill was even longer. So we had to try to figure out how to be fair and equitable. Well, hey, could you come in like one day a week?
Right.
Yeah. But that was you were not working. You were getting your work done. We may have heard a baby in the background or a kid in the background.
You might have. Yeah.
That's okay. So it was. That's why maybe we were comfortable with it when the work from home thing became cool. Well, Janet's done it for a long time, and so and then she pioneered it for everyone else who's done it. So that's been great.
Yeah.
Pre-STORIS seems like a long time ago.
Yes.
Like prehistoric days. How did we operate then? Like, what can you recall from the days before we converted to STORIS? So this would be like pre-2015.
Right. It was crazy. There were, I definitely remember end of year, there were tons of manual changes that we'd have to get right, because it was end of year. And I spent many Christmases, cooking dinner while kind of making some inventory adjustments. So my computer was right there next to me getting it done. I don't know how we operated. We had a flashback going in when we purchased, kind of took over Wilmington, and I'm like, wow, there is zero accountability in profits and homes. So I don't know how we made it, but we did.
We somehow figured it out. I mean,
we did.
I'm sure you remember like shopashley.net and we did all these plugins and modules and do you recall like when we wanted to go to point of sale and it would like operate on Ashley Holmes system, operated like a shopping cart. And I think you and Celeste were really comfortable with the green screen and the order entry.
Yes.
Super comfortable. Did not want to change.
Nope.
But we're like, this thing looks like it might be a little bit better, more. How did you handle that element of change? That was like 08, maybe 09?
Right. Everybody knows I don't love change.
I used to not like it.
I've definitely I still don't always like it, but or resistant. But I feel like I've been a lot more open-minded. Then I think it was more fear because I knew what I was doing. So the fear of the unknown. Then I wouldn't be the rock star. But I think now it's okay. We got a new system. We can easily roll it out, and we can conquer anything.
I think there's probably a really good business lesson in that for people who like resist change, and sometimes we have to get that discernment. Is it because it's the fear of the unknown, or I'm really comfortable and I'm well known and popular and the rock star and I'm the go-to person here, and okay, let me just understand, is this better for the group, the organization, the team, and maybe my ego has to go, and we all have to mature and grow over time, but you guys rolled with the punches and made it work ultimately.
Right.
So let's move. So do you remember when we used to do same day or next day delivery? Me, you, Jonathan, and we'd have to, the tags, we'd have to like change them every twice a day, take them out. That's out of stock now. Those were some
It was pretty crazy. Yeah.
But it was like kind of early for its time. This was like back.
It was.
Like 09 or 07. I can't remember exactly when, but what do you remember about that?
It was just a lot of moving parts. Like you said, there were 3 people that could kind of do it and make the changes. But, I felt it went okay. I also remember we had the white glove delivery service, and we had, Eric and Oscar kind of handling all of those special deliveries for us.
Yeah, we've had Eric on the podcast, and he even referenced that. He's like, Call on me to go take care of the white glove problems. We got it. Okay, so staying kind of in the theme of the early years.
Yeah.
We had some lean times and some hurdles, obstacles we've had to go through. You've lived through many of them. But one of them was a macro event, which was the Great Recession.
Right.
And what are your memories of the time during the Great Recession when it got really lean and credit crunch and housing and mortgage and it was that crisis which really impacted anyone related to the home, which was us.
Right. It was definitely scary. So never kind of experienced anything like that. And I didn't know, one day from the next. And I remember you were holding several meetings. It was one day that you were holding several meetings. And of course you put me at the end of the day, which you always did. And it was always made me crazy because I needed to know. And I walked in and I didn't know if I was going to keep my job. I didn't know what was going to happen. So I think you said to me, just don't cry. I don't want to deal with you crying. I had a tendency to cry a lot in the younger years. So
then my goal today is to see if we can make you cry.
I'm not going to cry.
I'm kidding.
I've totally reversed. But it was just scary. So I think when we talked through it and, we all had to take a, pay decrease where it wasn't a lot, but it would make a huge impact to the company. And I was like, yes, absolutely. Whatever we have to do to make this work. And so I can keep coming back. I was just relieved I had a job. I was relieved that, I was one of the ones that kind of stayed on. So I was very grateful to be a part of that. I think that we had all these sayings. We had good to great in 2008. And behind your back, we had the saying, back to fine in 2009. So we were making it and we were surviving.
I've never heard of that until just now.
I know.
Well, I mean, some of those small sacrifices, I mean, it was like 5% pay cuts for most and 10% for management. But it was to avoid any layoffs, mass layoffs, to lengthen our runway, which was the strategy at the time. But we had other things that probably go back and wish we hadn't done, like one manager covering 2 or 3 stores. That was probably not great. But we did have to wear many hats. And when store revenues get cut in half overnight, you have to kind of grit it out and figure out how to survive, right? To protect families and jobs. Okay. Now, we got through the Great Recession, so that's why we can talk about it and laugh about it now, and we saved jobs, and we fought through it. And when you kind of grow and bond through things of those experiences. And then we had another experience. I like to call it the Savvy Spaces experiment. Not a lot of people will know what we're talking about when I mention Savvy Spaces. And it's crazy. It's become like a small footprint in the company's history at this point. But what can you tell us about Savvy Spaces and that 18-month experiment that we ran? I think it was like 10 to 12 years ago.
Right. I was really shocked. It was announced that we were opening a store 2 doors down from our other store, and I'm like, okay. And it was a total different concept. So I think I was lucky enough where I was a part of it, and I helped, with some of the ordering. But then I stayed far enough away from it because it was a lot. And I remember opening the second store, and I was like, wait, what? In Smith Corners. And there were a bunch of us there, and we didn't have crews. We didn't, so I remember, I believe, Karen McKenzie was vacuuming and stuff like that, and I was painting, which I should never do.
Got it. Duly noted.
Yes, but it was interesting.
It was a failed experiment.
It was.
But we tried it. It didn't work, and we learned from it, and we won't pay that tuition twice.
Correct.
So we're focused now. And so then we had another kind of moment in 2015. So the STORIS conversion. And I'm not trying to bring up all these like painful memories, but I do want to tell the truth of the story. So, because they kind of made us who we are. But you were on the STORIS conversion team and the core team, and I'm sure you've got some very vivid memories about the first half of 2015. And just to kind of replay it, we acquired the Asheville and Arden stores in Western North Carolina at the beginning of 2015. Like 10 days later, we converted on to a new ERP system for the first time in like our company's history in 12 years in mid-January. And then a couple weeks after that, we broke ground on our new distribution center and corporate campus in corporate offices in Fort Mill, South Carolina. And then I think by April, we were converting the Asheville stores from Profit Systems to STORIS. So what do you think we got wrong from the conversion from your perspective?
I think that, we spent, a year or two on the go live process. Yeah. We were locked in a room. There were some great memories. I remember the first time at the beginning,
Well, we weren't locked in a room for a year and a half.
But essentially just focused on, all things. I sometimes think, did we overthink it? Did we underthink it? I don't know. Did we spend too much time on it? And would the results have been different if we spent less time?
Just pulled the Band-Aid off earlier.
I think so.
I think that, and Hope and I talked about this on the podcast recently, I really think that what we did wrong, made a strategic error. This is my error that I own, is we took our best people and said, keep doing your day job and be on this really critical project.
Right.
And can't do that. And so if anyone's doing an ERP conversion, my advice to them is, if you're going to put people on it, let that be their sole project. And and it's the best insurance you can pay, and don't ask them to do two jobs, because ultimately you're probably going to fail at both, because you're not going to have enough hours to get your main job done and feel overworked, overburdened with that. And then you're adding risk to the conversion project, which is most critical thing you're probably doing as an organization. So colossal failure. And
I don't think colossal.
Well, it was. Well, it did cause us to break all of our bones, and that strategic error on my part led to that. But did you ever think that we weren't going to make it in 2015?
No.
Why
I always
not?
thought we would make it.
Why is that?
Because you have to look at the people that we had on the team. So we had people that were solely invested on keeping it going. I mean, it was never a thought in my head that we wouldn't make it. I knew we would. Was it going to be pretty? No. Did we have a lot of tears during that time? We did, but I feel like we just had, some outstanding people. We had Hope, we had Steve Carey, we had Cherrie Rivera. These are all people that, would go to the fire for this company. And it never was a thought in my mind that we were going to fail.
How do you think we changed the news?
On a lot of hard work. I think that we were just really quick to pivot and make changes. So when we realized it wasn't working, we would all kind of get back together. So I think it was important that we would just all jump back in together and say, okay, we got to, reset the wheel and go through here and do that. I just think it was the people. We just had to be aware of what was going on.
Got it. So Orange Crush. This is maybe a little bit more joyful of a memory. So, do you recall our Orange Crush roadshows that we used to do? We did them 3 years in a row.
We did.
They got bigger and bigger each year. And were you involved in these? What are your memories from the Orange Crush tours?
That they were a lot of fun. And I know where it wasn't my team at the time, but the visual team really enjoyed kind of letting their, design and inspiration come to life and just doing some of those fun events. So it was a really fun time. It was long. It was a lot of driving. But I just felt like there was a really kind of good spirit in the stores while we were going through it. It wasn't a, negative thing at all. It was really celebrating every store and giving everybody their own time to kind of shine.
Got it. Okay, pivoting again. Now let's organizational purpose. And you kind of said earlier that you think that we've always kind of been a people-oriented company that felt like family. So just keeping that in mind, our organizational purpose is furnishing life's best memories. 4 simple words, 4 powerful but simple words, that are powerful put together. What is this shift, to a purpose-driven organization been like for us? And what do you think it means to be purpose-driven?
I think it really gets everybody focused in on one goal, as opposed to, 10 different departments running at what they believe their purpose is. If we just bring it back down to, furnishing life's best memories, whether it's for our customers, whether it's for our people, I think once we focus on that and have one goal that we work together on, it really helps us, go to the high level priorities as opposed to maybe the lower level priorities that aren't as important.
That's really, really profound. You're saying it's unifying and it threads us all it's the common thread that unites us. That's great. So have you noticed a real change since we made that shift and adopted a corporate purpose? Or were some of those elements, like you said, going back to the people and the family-oriented aspect, always present underneath the surface?
I think it was always present and underneath the surface. I've never, had a thing where I really feel like, this is my family. I feel like this, I've known you, just as long, and I feel like that's what makes this place special. You care about the people.
Got it. So leadership summits and purpose summits.
Right.
You know, everything rises and falls on leadership. And then we've done a purpose summit. So do you recall the August 2018 leadership summit with Joey Ryman and with Inky Johnson when we had the big reveal of our organizational purpose?
Yes.
So what do you recall about that event?
It was wonderful. I loved the times where we would kind of do these breakout sessions and you would get with a peer partner. So mine was Shoko, and it was somebody who we always would, smile and wave at each other, but never really got to know each other. So since then, we had a connection after that. And I loved being able to connect with somebody you wouldn't normally connect with.
Yeah, and so I think at the Leadership Summit, we did the breakout to group together on finding the loyalty program, and then the next year in August 2019 was Purpose 828.
Right.
And we did those peer coaching sessions because we just transformed our leadership summit as a purpose summit, our first ever purpose summit.
Right.
So it was great to bring everyone together. So going to, I really want to talk about what you're doing now with visual impact store openings and
Right.
store remodels. Okay, so let's just start from the beginning. What exactly is visual impact?
It is kind of everything that we do in the store to make it, visually pleasing, making guests want to purchase the product. And I always love to, when I bring on new people, I say, a new VIA, like, what is your purpose here? Well, you're the one that unboxes and unloads the trucks. You assemble the product, and behind every $1 million memory maker, there's a visual team behind it that has supported them. So every job is equally as important. Yep, we celebrate our $1 million writers, but that VIA or the VIM is equal contributors into the success of that company.
Yeah, and so visual impact is the name of your department.
It is.
And how many people are in that department?
I believe 95 right now.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
That's you've got a big org that you're
I do.
overseeing, like nearly 100 people. It's great. And who are well, we'll get into the top leaders, but you're right. Like other companies might call them, we think your purpose begins with identity.
Correct.
And other folks may say, well, they're porters or they're showroom movers, and we may have used some of those names, or housemen. I've heard that before. And you're a VIA, which you've used we use acronyms, which is Visual Impact Associate. And do you have career pathing in visual?
I do.
Oh, okay, tell us about that.
Yes. So you can start as a visual impact associate, move into a professional, and that is just some of our kind of next step. Like they understand it and they get it. They assist with training, and then we also have visual impact training leads. So this is a group of a team that can come together. We can build ideas, and we're really kind of fulfilling that purpose this year. So. Just learning the best. I cannot be the person that teaches somebody how to build product or unload safely, but we've got great people that can do that. So knowing that they have a next step is really important.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's like the thing that you said there that really resonated was we come together and share best practices or ideas, which is like leaning on our core value of collaboration.
Right.
And that's great that you guys are doing that. So is visual impact an area that you always thought you'd end up? Is that where you always wanted to go into,
No.
or saw yourself moving into?
No.
Okay. So how did you get there, and what do you love about visual impact?
I love the people. I love seeing the people light up and do something that they're passionate about. I've got such great people: Jeannie Slack, Amy Hayes, Brian Curran, Karen O'Hare. I could go on, and I feel like I know them personally. I know down to Eric Turner and the Matt Rosses. So it's the people that make it exciting. But no, I never anticipated to be over people. So I went from merchandising, where I really kind of managed myself for the most part and living in a box essentially for a couple of years, to all of a sudden having to manage a group of 90 people. And I was like, wow, this is a lot of work. I tell them I'm not a professional. I don't, this is still new to me. So I'm learning as I go, which is why I love, you are providing some leadership, seminars and courses for our team to take together, because we've just got to learn together. So they're just a really great team of people. We work hard, we work together, and it's wonderful. It's exhausting. I mean, I think I stay on the phone from 6 a.m. till 8 o'clock at night. But if we don't connect with our people, then what kind of leaders are we? So I want to know about what's going on with them personally. I want to know what's going on with them professionally, and then how we can kind of work together and bridge any gaps.
Yeah, great leadership lessons there. Okay, so we've been on a tear recently with store openings, remodels. You guys have obviously been instrumental in making all of that happen. It's just been like a flurry of activity like in the last 3 years. And maybe even during the pandemic year, you were the busiest.
I was.
Which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So take us through the last few years of store openings and reopenings and remodels and renovations. I'm sure you've got a number of standout memories from each of them.
I do. There has just been so many. I remember when we decided to open 2 stores in 1 week. So that was Matthews and Capitol.
Back to back.
Back to back. Actual same week. So I had a team here and there was a team up there. And I mean, in Matthews, we were relaxing. We were like, this is the easiest store to open ever, while there was chaos ensuing in Capitol. So I left Matthews, went up to Capitol for the week, and it was experience. I mean, there was dicey fire marshal situations. So at one point I had to keep everybody, lock them, move everybody to the back of the store, not our store, the other store that we were using.
The empty box.
The empty box, which I believe it's still empty. But just to kind of get everybody through it. So, but again, beautiful store. Let's see, there was Four Oaks, there was Durham, South Point, Wilson was another interesting one where we had a CO issue where...
Tell them what a CO is.
Certificate of occupancy.
Yeah.
So
and you need that to be able to
unload
furniture.
Trucks. Yeah. So we got an immediate one. We didn't pass, of course, our first one. I was able to bring product in, but only in a certain part of the store. So we basically had it stored. I got very familiar with Fire Marshal Fred. He eventually bought from us, so that was a good thing. But there was just, I could go on probably, I could tell you stories about every single one. Going back as far as Mooresville, when we started to move in, and then we didn't have that certificate of occupancy, so we all had to get locked out until some things were done. But the last few years, I think, have really shaped and paved the way for what good is, or what great is. We've got it down to a science, and it is so rewarding when at the end of, I work everybody 10 to 12 hours a day. We bring food in so they can't leave the building. Really kind of bribe them, and they, we're leaving, and everybody's like, "When's the next one?" They love it. We have we do games, we tell stories, and we. I think the most important thing is we stop all at once and we eat together. Twice a day. Back when Matt Ross, who's not on our team anymore, he would pray for us. And it was, I wasn't a part of last week's, but I know that they phoned a friend in Greenwood when we opened that, and Matt Ross led him in prayer again. So I thought that was pretty exciting.
And so there's a couple things there. So I always love to see the ending, the breaks when you're breaking bread together. But then at the end, you always kind of do something special for the team. What do you like to do for the team at the very end of a store opening or project?
It varies. We will bring in, I always make T-shirts for everybody. So we always get some great T-shirts. We take a team picture. This past time in Greenwood, I knew that it was going to be so hot for the team. Interesting unload. I also know that we were store number 31. And what else does 31 have to do with Baskin-Robbins? So on Monday, we had an ice cream truck roll through, and everybody was able to get ice cream. So just kind of fun things that we really like to do, and just team building. And
I heard about the ice cream truck, by the way. I'll get to that later. But
awesome.
Yeah, it's a great idea. 31. You always kind of connecting the store number to some cool story.
Yeah.
And interesting story, and making it memorable for the team. And I love that. At the end of it, they're like, "Well, when's the next one?" I mean, that is such a cool bonding experience. And I feel like you're always going to have proverbial fires or things that go awry.
Right.
But I always feel like you guys can tackle any challenge that comes up, and it's you get these things done in less than a week.
We do
3 or 4 days. I mean, yeah, you're going to work a little bit harder when you're working the 10 to 12 hours, but then it's done, and you just canvas into a store, and then you're done. And so it's pretty incredible. And the reason we are waiting on these COs is because we don't like to get the CO and then just sit on the empty box for a month. We're paying rent.
Correct.
But we have to sync up the trucks with Ashley or our vendor partners when it's coming in, and so. Well, we got to know. So it's pretty tightly wound in terms of making sure all those things come together. But you guys do a great job with it. So I guess you've kind of answered the questions I wanted to ask you. Like, why do you think the team's been so responsive to your leadership during these openings? Is there anything else that you think that you do that makes them responsive other than those family activities and fun and games you guys do?
No, I mean, I still don't really think it's my leadership. I just think it's the team that we have. And again, we have one goal, and furnish life's best memories. My goal is when we get to a store opening is I want to get home. But I want to get home to my family. And I want everybody else to get home to their family too. So it's not just about me, but it's just a really good team effort. And I feel like it's a testament to the people that we have on the team.
Well, if you had to say, like, what's the secret sauce to a really effective store opening, what would you share?
A really detailed plan. I mean, I could definitely have it planned out by the hour, but one thing I've learned is things don't go to plan. So just being able to pivot, I can see when, a team is struggling or kind of down. So just being able to pivot quickly and, change the news so we can get on to the next task. And I also know when everybody's hit their lull at the end of the day. That's a time where I need to say, okay, are we going to push on or are we going to call it a night and start fresh in the morning? Yeah.
The agility in your planning is unreal, but you've got this really tight wound plan, but you're not like if something goes wrong, you're not so locked in and it's not going to ruin your day. No, we're just going to pivot and keep it fluid. Okay, switching gears a bit, COVID and the pandemic. How has COVID and operating with face masks during the pandemic affected your team's ability to do your job?
It was a challenge. So at the beginning, COVID, I remember being in Raleigh Outlet grand opening, and I think it was the next day that day, everything shut down. So whole new process for me to learn. Never had to experience furloughs or how to kind of furlough people. It was wildly different. 85% of our team went on furlough. So there was just a few of us that kind of stayed on. But I also had people wanting to come back. And we just did, there weren't enough stores open. I had some people that refused to go out. So I had Cheryl in the West region. She stayed strong and she covered all of those stores while we were down. Karen and Eric Turner, they kind of stayed on and lasted through the whole time for us. So it was just a completely different thing we had to get used to. We were doing, everybody was pitching in. I know I was selling furniture on the weekend with Mo Sutter in the South Boulevard outlet. And I know Karen was managing a store up in Raleigh on the weekend. So it just changed everything, but it didn't. Okay, we had to wear face masks, but we still worked. If that's all we had to do, okay, we have to sanitize. We have to stay 6 feet apart, but we can still, keep the company going and keep us profitable. So it was it was a lot to go through, but small sacrifices to kind of keep everything going. I was really concerned, I knew people that have elderly, people that they lived with at home. And I wanted to make sure that everybody felt safe. I think that was my biggest, I am a worrier and I am, a crazy mom. So it was just important for me to everybody know that, they were able to come back home when we were ready to have them. So it was really wonderful just to, are we ready yet? Can we come back yet? Everybody just really kind of buckled down and got the job done, whether it was selling, whether it was cleaning bathrooms, whether it was, going from store to store, just doing whatever we had to do to kind of keep the company going.
It seems like you lean back on this small company mindset of I'm going to wear many hats and I'm okay
Absolutely.
with that. And the 85% of the team that went on furlough, did they elect to do that? Or is that something that we mandated?
They really elected to do it. Yeah. So it was, again, everybody had their own personal kind of reasons as to why they were doing it. And we just
it was okay.
With it.
We understood it.
We did.
And so whoever was staying was going to get the job done.
Right.
It's just incredible how we pulled together during that time. So are there any other memories that you haven't discussed already that stand out for you as some of your best memories at the river?
Yes, probably a bunch. Everything. Even as far as having, being pregnant here, everybody was super understanding. Just knowing that, I felt loved. So don't come from a big family. My kids don't have any grandparents. So it's me and my husband that kind of manage everything. And it was wonderful. I've never missed anything of my kids' lives. So for me, that was why I give so much to doing my job. Everybody always wonders, oh, well, Janet works all the time. I do, but I don't. I'm able to be a full-time mom and a full-time worker. So to me, that's one of the best memories of being here.
Well, you got great discipline. And when you're with your family, you're with your family. You
right.
take vacations, a lot of Disney vacations.
We love vacations.
Yeah, that's great. So is there anyone else we haven't mentioned or you haven't mentioned who you would consider some of your all-time favorite memory makers who you've been able to work with over the years that you'd like to mention?
Definitely. Cherrie Rivera. So she is, near and dear to my heart. I think at the beginning, many people didn't think that we'd get along. We're kind of very similar, but we bonded. She was the one that came to me and said, hey, you need to come to New Jersey with me to, talk through STORIS and everything. And this was, 2013, 2014? I've never spent a night away from my kids. Every store we opened, I would go back and forth same day. I just didn't want to be away. So somehow she talked me into jumping on a plane and going there. And of course, we had a snowstorm here. So it was definitely interesting. But she has always been one of my, biggest supporters. She will tell I can go to her and get really a valid answer. She's not going to say, oh, Janet, you're right or anything. We complement each other really well. So even when she left, we went to Charleston and I had dinner at her house and just lifelong friend, I believe, awesome. There. Victor Medina,
Victor!
Can't not talk about Victor. It was funny when I went into labor, with Joey, going through things. I'm in the hospital and my cell phone rings and my husband answers it. And it's Victor. Just wanted to see how things were going.
Oh, wow.
So he is definitely, somebody that's important. Steve Carey. Never did I in my wildest dreams think that I would do anything spend as much time on costing and accounting and everything. But he and I spent many hours together, 3:00 in the morning hours, just kind of going through on the phone, kind of everything preparing for the STORIS go live. And then I've got people, Eric Turner, Nancy Hendrickson, Matt Ross, currently Karen, Brian Curran, Amy Hayes, Vitaly, Cheryl. I've got great people here.
That's awesome. That's great. I'm glad.
Well, then there's you.
Well,
and Manny, who've been really wonderful to me and allowed me to spread my wings and grow.
That's awesome. And it's been great to see how much you've flourished and the team's flourished, under your leadership. Okay, we're going to take a break right now and pause. This episode's so good, we're going to make it a two-parter. So join us again next week, and you'll hear the second half of Janet's story. It's a great story so far, and we'll hear the rest of her story and learn a whole lot more about her and her drive and her team's drive for success. And join us anywhere you listen to podcasts, wherever you're listening today, on YouTube, on Amazon, Google, Apple, and we bring fresh new episodes to you every Wednesday. Mash that subscribe button. Thanks so much for listening.